The kids are in trouble, man. The kids are in trouble and they are out of control. What in the world is Boy Cavalier supposed to do? And do we finally get an inkling of what Kirsch is all about? Because it feels like we're going to find out what Kirsch is all about. What's up, my know-it-alls? Okay, Alien, Earth, what the hell? Funny, before I get started, there's an odd discourse online, which I feel like I'm saying that more and more every single episode of this, of my show, which is there seems to be people online who are like, this show is such trash and this show is blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what show are you watching again? Because clearly, I feel like we're not watching the same show. I mean, really? Comment below. Tell me what your thoughts are. I'm particularly interested. If you disagree with me, come to the front of the line. I'm particularly interested to find out what in the world you people who hate the show are actually thinking. By the way, I mean that in utter and total respect. Seriously, give me your comments, but walk me through it. If all your thoughts is this show is trash, why, man? What don't you like? And it's okay if it's just your opinion. That's called discourse. I'm all about it and I'm all here for it. So I can't wait to hear what you guys, let's hear what your thoughts are. Now let's jump into this thing. So the episode starts off with Slightly. Slightly has hidden Arthur Sylvia's body. You know, the one with a face hugger attached to it? Yeah, he's hidden in his room. So his buddy Smee shows up, and Smee is literally like a child barreling through the doors. I realize in this moment, what I didn't like about them behaving like children is really just Smee. This actor who's playing Smee, I do not know his name right this second. He's a wonderfully talented actor and he's doing a good job. But every time he's on screen, he does such a good job acting like a kid. I find him incredibly annoying. Like his kid behaving like a kid annoys me to no end. Slightly gets Smee to help him move the body because he's got to. He's got to head to the beach. And so they literally pick it up and go down a hallway. Now, my first thought is, oh my gosh, what are they doing? They're gonna get caught. You find out later why they don't, and I'm not gonna get into that ahead of myself here. So let's keep talking. In the facility lab, it's all being cleared out, it's all being cleaned up, and you really start to see all the stuff. They send a containment team, they grab the fly, whatever else. Boy Cavalier comes in because he's told that it's safe, and ultimately he's like, what's going on? And he asks the question of Kirsch, how are we on the backup protocols?
Amazing. Where are we on reboot and restore?
Conceptually, it's possible. Practically, we haven't cracked it.
So apparently they have the capacity to back up these kids' minds, which all lends itself credence to what we've been talking about so far, going back to the ethical discussion that's at play here constantly within the series. If they can be backed up, are they just programs who think that they're humans with all the human memories and everything else that made those people what and who they are? That's the big key to this whole thing. Is that what's going on? And when Wendy shows up, she's pissed. Oh yeah, Wendy's not happy because she feels like Prodigy is essentially brushing off Isaac, person they call Toodles, his death. And she's like, you can't erase everything. You really can't. So Wendy leaves and she manages to convince Nibs to join her and ultimately Joe in escaping the island, Neverland, if you will. She realizes more and more and more that the boy genius is kind of evil, especially because now they have a moment. The key thing I think that enables this entire situation to happen. Remember last episode, Arthur deactivated their tracking devices. And we find that out very, very quickly, especially when at one point, Wendy hacks into the system and she releases her pet Xenomorph. Because at this point, that's what he is. At this point, that's her pet Xenomorph. I'm sorry. And ultimately, she uses him in the lab to create a distraction. And he goes on a rampage. And a Xenomorph is gonna Xenomorph. And that's what he does. And it's incredible. It is incredible. It is scary. It is like, what in all the hells? Now they have to deal with that whole scenario. And what that means ultimately for this entire thing. So back with Slightly and Smee carrying a big body who they put down while they're waiting for the transport to come and everything else. Kirsch walks up. Yeah, walks right up. But instead of stopping them, Kirsch tells them, you gotta hurry up. You gotta get to the beach. What? They're like, yeah, you're gonna be late. It's that way. Get going. Dude's dirty. I'm telling you, I've had a feeling because he's a synth, and I'm as far as I'm understanding, not everybody's just building synths everywhere. So that means it's a very specific technology. I have this feeling that deep down inside, he is Weyland-Yutani tech. Or at the very least, he's up for experimenting the way Boy Cavalier may or may not know. Because that's the only connection that hasn't been made yet. So I feel like there's a weird, like, why are the synths dirty, man? The heck's going on here? What's going on? No, for real. What's going on with these guys? Ever since the beginning, ever since Rook, back in the beginning, they're all dirty. Man, that's rough. So on the outskirts, Arthur, because when they get to where they think they're going to be going, they have to put him down. They're trying to avoid a patrol. Apparently he wakes up. The facehugger died off. And he gets up and he's like, hey, let's go. What's going on? What's happening? And the kids basically tell him, hey, man, you guys are, you've been injured. You this, that. They lie. And Arthur calls them out on their lying.
We're just sticking with your life. Yeah. Thing is, children have to learn how to lie. And you two are still learning. I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you two are scared.
It's actually pretty brilliant the way he does it. And so what happens? He convinces them, let's go back. Slightly is very confused, doesn't know what he's gonna do. But while they're on their way back, Xenomorph's gonna xenomorph, and chest burster happens, and it's a whole horrible thing and a mess. And yeah, it's pretty rough. And so what does Slightly do? He's got no other choice. He feels like his family's at stake. He takes Arthur's body and continues on down the beach, in hopes till he meets, and when he runs into him. He runs into Morrow at one of the lakes, and Morrow basically takes them captive as they enter the facility. Kirsch reports back to Cavalier that essentially they're calling it the Oculus specimen, was responsible for the lab accident. He shows him a video. Cavalier meets the creature. Cavalier is fascinated. Him and his head of security. He talks about possibility of getting a human host in order to properly communicate, because he asked the thing, do you know, pi is something anybody should know. What's the next digit? It stomps it out. So now we know the eye alien is smart. Why does this Oculus creature continue to be the single most interesting alien in this alien show? It's brutal and stupid. Fundamentally, I'm into the moral question that they're asking with Wendy and the kids, but at the end of the day, I don't know that I care as much about them as the little boy in me who saw aliens in movie theaters really wants to see what Oculus is about and wants to find out more about all these other crazy alien creatures that exist. I feel like that is a huge part of what's making the show so interesting, like genuinely. At one point, Boy Cavalier does say he thinks he knows who the perfect candidate is to be the human host of Oculus. I have a feeling, my own self, that Hermit is on the menu. We will see. Unless he's planning on putting it in Curly. But I don't know that can you put Oculus in one of these creatures? Would it in one of the synth things? Would it work? Could it drive it like a car? Like would that be the perfect setup? Could you essentially build a synth body and have a parking spot for the thing to just park in? That's what I'm talking about. Like that's rough, man. That's a difficult question. Wendy, Joe, and Nibs are essentially held at gunpoint by the Yutani forces who meet them on the outskirts. Then Wendy uses her hybrid communication ability, and the Xenomorph creature shows up, and the soldiers are, it's rough, man. As the creature ultimately spares Wendy, Joe, and Nibs because Wendy tells it not to. Oh, it tells it to. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, she's just become the most powerful person on this entire scenario. Morrow and his team ultimately attempt to enter the facility, but Kirsch really intercepts them, having captured the newborn Xenomorph already. Morrow is held. Yeah, Slightly and Smee are taken back. Wendy, Joe, and Nibs try to reach a boat to escape. However, they're stopped by Neverland enforcement. Nibs, in a really frustrated moment, starts just ending fools. Joe almost ends her by using an electrical gun, which incapacitates her. Wendy is shocked, and she's livid.
What did you do?
You know, and the Xenomorph from the woods watches them. Oh yeah, Yeah, man. Betrayal, factional splits, several characters crossing moral lines or betraying previous loyalties, slightly with Morrow, Wendy versus Prodigy, Joe's line in the sand. The alliances are kind of really fracturing. You have human hybrid, this identity conflict thing going on. The hybrids are struggling over what the ownership means to them, what their agency is, essentially, tracking devices, all that nonsense. You know, Joe's being protective, but there's really contradictory behavior going on with him, especially when he's willing to use violence. And ultimately, Wendy, I feel like Wendy's stepping more into her role as leadership, whatever she's gonna be. The thing pays off. The Xenomorph emergence from Arthur it's a shock. And it really deepens the horror stakes. Because you gotta remember, at this point, it's so funny. They've created such an interesting show. This is why I have a problem with people who don't like the show. I don't care that we haven't seen all these elements. I find myself interested, and then just as I'm getting tired of something, the Xenomorphs are back, and you get to see them doing Xenomorphy things, and it's like, okay. Like, this show is balancing a lot of things very well from my perspective. So would love to hear, again, your thoughts on what you guys think about the whole thing. I find the entire situation with Cavalier unsettling. I feel like he's now tipped over into evil genius. He was just a genius before, and I was like, okay, cool, maybe whatever else. But now he's slipped into cartoony version of what I sort of expected him to be in the very beginning. So yeah. Ultimately, the kids are trying to get out. Everything's happening and moving. But yeah, the show itself is really moving towards something, and I can't wait to see what that is. So there you go. Now you know. And I'm not half the battle. You're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. What is the Know-it-all Index for this, the penultimate episode of Alien Earth? I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this a lot. And I've enjoyed this entire show to this point, continually. I'm going to give this episode absolutely 100% an earned solid 8 out of 10. Tell me what you thought. Was I right? Was I wrong? Did you enjoy this? Are you really starting to get a feel for what the show is doing? Are you digging the little off-put rock and roll-y type music that they do at the very end? I know I'm kind of digging it myself, but would love to hear more. And yeah, man, I can't wait. We're gonna talk to you again next week. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all. Bye, guys.